Alright, what is up, everybody? So I finally got around to crafting and trying out Koumei, the actual frame for this update. I tried all the reworks, I tried the companions, the new incarnate weapons, or a lot of the new incarnate weapons. Everything in this patch, honestly, has been really good and really strong. Unfortunately, I think Koumei, and especially her signature weapons, are kind of like the big standout losers, unfortunately. I know that they added like the weapon specific mods for her weapons, but in a world of like incarnate weapons and tenant weapons and Kuva weapons, like those things are just not good. Like, I mean, they're very pretty. Like the Higasa has the whole shield thing going, which is kind of interesting. But it's just not good, unfortunately. I really wanted the Higasa to be good, but it's just not. So Koumei herself is a pretty interesting frame. So she has basically random buffs she'll give to your one of her weapons. So there's a UI element that tells you which weapon is buffed. So it's kind of supposed to encourage you to swap between weapons. The problem is almost every single mechanic in Warframe makes you not want to switch weapons at this point because you have galvanized mods, which means your weapons do crap damage until you kill a few things. You have your arcanes, which for primary weapons, pretty much the only viable one is Merciless or Deadhead, which both require you to once again kill enemies. Secondaries are a little easier because you know Cascadia Flare is very good, and a lot of guns can run heat on as a secondary. So that you can stack that up at least without killing things. But now even melee weapons have galvanized mods. So if you swap to your melee and it's not like a heavy attack weapon, you either need to build up combo or kill stuff for your galvanized mods or both. So like this is a interesting mechanic, but with the weapons they've added or with the mods and arcanes they've added into the game the past couple years, like it kind of is counter synergistic to that. Like frankly, you kind of just want to like stick to one weapon and only use that for pretty much the entire mission with how things are right now. The one exception is the newish arcane that increases damage to Overguard. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but that one is amazing. So I wish there was more arcanes like that. So like I will run a secondary with that arcane just to kill Eximus units, then swap back to my primary or swap back to my melee. So her passive is interesting, but not very practical. And that basically describes her entire kit, actually. Interesting, but not very practical. Her one is like effectively just for status priming, but it does not do a very good job at that. They just buffed this today, so her threads, there's more threads. So like kind of like longer range basically. The duration is, so I don't have any mods on this build, so, as you can see. So these are just the base stats. So the duration is pretty short. So like you can't really do like area control with this. Like even with primed continuity, you're gonna get to like something like around 20 seconds ish. It's okay. You know, it's all right. And then there's the whole another part of her mechanic, which isn't listed directly as a passive, but it is kind of her passive. All of her abilities have this roll, like dice roll effect, right? So if you don't hit a perfect roll on this ability, enemies who touch them just get one status effect. If you get a perfect roll, so triple sixes, they get every status effect. Obviously, one of those is way better than the other. Like if you have an ability that can inflict one stack of every single status effect in the game, that's really good. So that goes from like a pretty meh ability to an actually legitimately good ability. Like that maxes out your condition overload effects, right? The problem is that the chance for that to happen is only like 11% or something. So most of the time, this ability is going to feel pretty bad. Sometimes it's going to feel good, and that's kind of the problem with her whole kit. Is like most of the time her abilities are pretty meh, and then when you do get a perfect roll, even then they're just like good, not like insane. So her 2, you get decrees. If you get a perfect roll, you just like get the decree. I'll talk about this later because, as you'll see on my other builds, I've taken this off all of her builds with Helminth abilities. Omamori is like, Mesmer Skin at home. You have a chance for enemy attacks to heal you instead of damage you, so you kind of like block one instance of damage. Unless you get a perfect roll, in which case you're just immune. So it's like once again, that is a massive, massive, massive difference. And you can't recast this, so you can't like fish for invulnerability. You have to get below a certain number of charms, um, and then you can recast it. So it's like it's a very weird loop where like if you get a perfect roll, you want a really like you want to keep that for a long time. But if you get anything besides a perfect roll, you kind of want as low of a roll as possible because the higher the roll you get is determines the number of charms. It's kind of like Baruch's daggers, um, or like Nova's antimatter particles or whatever, or Mesmer Skin charges is I guess the most obvious comparison. Um, so you want like as few charms as possible if you don't get a perfect roll, because then you can recast it faster and hope that you get a perfect roll. I just think that is like, let me get to the fourth ability. So like this one is basically like it's very, very, very similar to her first ability, except instead of the threads like staying in a place, they get attached to enemies. It's kind of like some CC. This one is pretty decent ability. Um, so once again, you roll the dice. Um, Originally, or like by default, this only affects enemies in front of Koumei. If you get a perfect roll, it causes more status effects and extends this to also affect enemies behind her. So once again, it's like it's a decent ability if you don't get a perfect roll. If you do, then it's like just a good ability. And I don't like this design. I'm gonna be honest. I think this frame looks incredible. Honestly, this might be my favorite looking frame in the whole game. This is like I think her design is S tier. I think the massive variability in her kit is horrible for game. I just don't like it at all. And maybe I'm alone in that. Maybe I'm crazy. I think the variance between how her abilities normally function and how they function with a perfect roll is way too high. And it seems like they were terrified of making this frame good. That's like the sense that I got. And it's just kind of insane because like Mesmer Skin is in the game. Saren exists. Like these frames that are just like completely ridiculous are already in the game. Like the power creep is already here. This frame having something that's similar to Mesmer Skin is not going to break the game because Mesmer Skin's already in the game. And frankly, if you play a Revenant build and you keep his 4, you're kind of just like a way better version of Koumei because his 4 has like adaptive damage and like it applies the status effect that enemies are weak to. So like with Revenant's 4, you're always getting the status effect that you want, or you're always getting the best status effect for that enemy you're fighting. And his obviously Mesmer Skin is the best defensive ability in the entire game. So like she's really feels like a bad Revenant. Now where she does have one thing that does make her obscenely powerful, and that is her 2. So her 2 is she basically gets Duviri decrees, right? So I'll go into the simulacrum here. So you press her 2, you get some challenge, and like if if you're able to fulfill that challenge, you get a decree. Now I think there's a few problems with this, multiple problems. So the like best roll aspect of this ability is actually not that bad because it just auto completes the decree, or the challenge, so you just automatically get the decree. So that's not too bad. So when you get the decree, so if you hold the ability, it'll cancel it, and then it goes on cooldown, and this cooldown stacks. So like the next time you cast the ability, you get a different challenge. So let's just pretend that I completed this challenge. If you decline the ability, it still goes on cooldown. And this, as you can see, so it was like a few seconds, then it was 10 seconds. This goes all the way up to 150 seconds. So almost three, or 2.5 minutes, right? Um, so now, as you can see, a lot of these challenges are frankly really fucking annoying. Um, like killing enemies while sliding, killing enemies while airborne, killing enemies while wall latched. These challenges have made me realize how, like, look, I'm trying to wall latch onto this, and it's just not happening. It's like, or like maybe I can wall latch here if I'm like have like perfect timing, or it's this it playing this frame and using her too was so frustrating. And it's balanced because the decrees can be absurd, but it has the same variance as like the Duviri decrees, right? They are the Duviri decrees. So you could get your melee attacks hit twice, your statuses do double damage. Like you can get the absolutely bonkers powerful Duviri decrees, and then you literally feel like a god. And you can get like, you take less damage per decree you have, and you can stay on a mission for a really long time and get like a ton of decrees, and you just feel like you're literally just a god. But one, the challenges are way, way, way too annoying. This frame is the worst frame in the whole game to play in a group, because they did change it so that assists count towards the challenges, but like it is so wonky. It just like does not work well. It also, now that your pets are doing a crap ton of damage, it also seems like it does not interact very well with your companion getting kills. So I was doing a mission with her with the Duriga with the Verglass Prime, which does a insane amount of damage. Like the Duriga can solo pretty much any Steel Path mission, um, and it was pretty much impossible for me to complete the challenge that I got, and it was just very frustrating. So, and then on top of that, while you can get the crazy Duviri decrees, like double status damage, you can also get another mission. I was trying to do like play her for like, a little while in a mission and stack up a few decrees. I didn't have a melee weapon equipped because I was leveling up the Dara Vandal and the Lex Prime. And I got 7 decrees in a row that were melee focused. So those basically did nothing for me, that mission. So, yes, you can get the crazy Duviri decrees, but you can also get decrees that do absolutely nothing for your build. So that is also really frustrating. So, I think like frustration is the main feeling that I felt while playing this frame. It's like, all right, I'm going to use my one. Didn't get a perfect roll. It's also like enemies literally need to get a colonoscopy by these wires for them to actually like get a status effect, and they need to like move through them again. Like, so yeah, that's a little unreliable. Um, so like her 3, this is not very reliable defensively. And then her 4 is probably her best ability. Okay, so I got a perfect roll there. So this is gonna do like okay damage. So you can see like it'll do. It depends on the status effects the enemies get, but it can do like pretty solid damage. Like her 4 is actually good. I will say her 4 is actually good. And it does CC enemies. It applies a lot of status effects. But I did, so that was with a perfect roll. So let's go do this again and see what the effect is without that perfect roll. Oh, and I don't have enough energy. Alright, so hopefully I don't get another perfect roll. That'd be awkward. Okay, so this time I did not get a perfect roll. Okay, You see how that heavy gunner almost died last time, and this time he's taking 0 damage, and it looks like even the butchers might not die? So, last time I cast this ability, got a perfect roll. It almost killed all of these Steel Path enemies. This time, I did not, and now it's struggling to even kill the butchers. Okay, it didn't kill anything. So that it might have killed 1 or 2 butchers. No, they survived. Oh, I killed one. Okay, so I killed one enemy. So it went from killing all of them to one of them because of the roll that I got. That's way too much variance for an ability. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I just think that's insane. Um, so in terms of builds, frankly, I just took her 2 off because I ended up just hating the ability. Yes, it can be insane, right? But it just feels bad. So I was trying a whole bunch of different ideas. I was trying to go like the health tank route, and try to synergize with her 3. This did work reasonably well. I threw Eclipse on here for some damage reduction. Then I was like, well, what if I just go like what does she actually need strength for? Because like if you want to focus on like the status effect side of her, maybe you could just kind of go like the Equinox route and just drop your strength, go maximum range, go like a shield build, and see how that works. So I went something like this. So I think the Archon mods are decent on her because like if you get Toxin, you'll also get Corrosive, which is nice. Vitality is probably okay. Um, Archon's, but it's very random though. Like this is useless if you don't get heat, right? This is useless if you don't happen to get electric. So it can really be very very inconsistent, which is kind of this frames theme. So this is the build I ended up using. So it's a shield based build. From what I could tell, your Omamori will still soak some damage. You just won't get healed because you're using a shield gating build. But like it'll still kind of protect you. It works synergizes a little bit with shield gating that way. Your range on your 4 and your 1 are really huge. So yes. So this is focused more on applying the status effects and kind of just using her as like a primer plus like some CC. And you have like a defensive here, and like just for the memes, because I just at this point I was like, F it. I actually really liked Vile Rush on her because you don't really care about the damage on this, so strength doesn't matter, and it synergizes really well with range and duration, which is what I was stacking. So I actually found Vile Rush to be pretty fun, more fun than her actual 2. And besides that, it's very standard. You got your shield gating stuff, brief respite. I liked catalyzing shields on her because she doesn't have a lot of shields, so I figured why not just bring that down even more. And now we get some nice numbers. 44 shields, 444 health, 444 armor, really cute. Um, prime flow for energy. You got your max range. I got fast deflection and adaptation. I think I was planning on formatting her one more time and putting rolling guard here. So this is kind of just a placeholder. Arcane Aegis for the defensive, more defense. This build gets absolutely destroyed by Toxin. That's the only thing that's unfortunate. Energize for the energy. I was using an Archon Shard for max energy on spawn. You could also use preparation. I think she probably would benefit from whatchamacallit, the cast speed yellow shards. That's another thing. So with this build, she has so you can Vile Rush, which applies cold, so that's kind of nice. And then you have a huge range on your 4. And it's kind of basically like a glorified status primer type thing. Her 1 has a pretty huge range. That's pretty funny. So you can like cover areas pretty well with her 1. But so my 1's over there, right? It has not expired yet. If I cast it over here, it goes away. And that's another thing that's annoying about this frame. Her 1 seems like it should be something you use to like defend hallways or something, but you can only have 1 up at a time. And that, I think, I think that would be okay if it had a longer base duration, but it doesn't. It has a pretty short base duration, so it feels like an ability you should be able to spam a few times in like different parts of all. Like let's say you're in like a tile set with a few hallways. You want to throw your one down each hallway. Can't do that. Um, so let me just kill these guys real quick, just to like showcase the. So let's see. These guys are 47, so this should hit them. Let me see. I think her 4 does also have an LOS check. So her 4 is actually pretty solid. It applies a lot of status effects. It CCs them. It does only affect enemies in front of you unless you perfect roll. So basically, how I've been playing is, your companion is going to do a crap ton of damage in this. It synergizes insanely well with Contagious Bond because, your companion is going to be spreading all of these status effects, and then you get that cascade, and it kind of helps with the whole Contagious Bond process. So, just to show the Med-J with this a little bit, not that the Med-J really needs the help. So, come on, buddy. Go kill stuff. Go, Gadget Dog. So, your pet will just kind of do even more damage than it's going to do anyways. And, everything will die. So, overall, I think she is a really cool looking frame. I think she is a really, in in theory, an interesting kit. I think she is absolutely hamstrung to hell and back by inconsistent abilities, and her highs are S plus 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 tier high. Like you could theoretically stay in a mission and have 200 decrees, and you're literally just God. Like you look at something and I mean, we've all done the circuit, right? When you have that many decrees, you can literally have any weapons on. It doesn't matter. You're gonna obliterate everything. So she has the highest of highs, but pretty low lows, unfortunately. So she's serviceable. You can do a health build, or you can do a shield build. I think range is really good on her. She doesn't really need to stack a lot of strength. So awesome looking frame, kind of fun to play, can be really frustrating. I really hope she gets some buffs. I just hope they narrow that gap of like it's okay for this frame to be powerful. Like I said, we already have Revenant in the game. We already have Saren and Octavia. Like it's the power creep already happened. Incarnate weapons are here. Now Companions 2.0 frankly are disgusting at doing damage. So like it's okay for her to be strong DE. It's fine. So please, I think she needs a little bit of buffs. But if you find something that works on her, that's great. Thanks for watching. I did like the rest of the patch a lot, and I'm looking forward to 1999. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you around.